In the bustling city streets, a sudden and horrific explosion rocked the area. A car had exploded, killing the woman inside. Behind what seemed like an unfortunate accident lay a shocking secret. Let's explore the case with the crime documentary files. Around 5:30 p.m. on July 9th, 2007, a concussion explosion shattered the peace on Jinshi Road in Jinan City, Shandong Province, China. The force of the blast had completely destroyed a Honda car, scattering the driver's body parts, some of which were found on the windows of nearby stores. A nearby taxi also caught fire, leaving the driver severely burned. Due to the severity of the explosion, a fruit vendor near the car was also injured, struck in the neck by debris and requiring over 10 stitches. The entire neighborhood was in chaos. Bystanders gathered, speculating wildly. Some thought it was a routine traffic accident, while others suspected a fuel tank explosion from a collision. But could an ordinary accident or fuel tank explosion have caused such devastating destruction? This question began to take root in the minds of the witnesses. Just minutes after the explosion, the police arrived at the scene. Through preliminary investigation, they confirmed one fatality, one pedestrian injury, significant damage to a taxi, and 2 other vehicles completely destroyed. With such a serious explosion occurring in the bustling city center, the investigators' urgent task was to determine the cause. Was this an unfortunate accident, or did a darker plot lie behind it? As the investigation delved deeper, the detectives realized the truly grave nature of the case. They discovered this was not a random explosion, but one carried out using TNT, a tightly controlled military explosive. This detail immediately revealed a terrifying truth. This was a premeditated murder. Through forensic analysis, the victim's identity was quickly established. She was 31-year-old Liu Haiping, residing in a luxurious 1,400-square-foot apartment in the Rui residential community. The destroyed car was a brand-new light blue Honda. But what drew the investigators' attention was not the victim's affluent lifestyle, but her unique status. A senior political cadre at the Jinan Municipal Land Resources Bureau and the Deputy Secretary of the Youth League Committee of the agency. News of the horrific death of a female state official in the bustling streets quickly spread, triggering an earthquake of public opinion in Jinan. The case was immediately elevated to a higher level of investigation. Agonizing questions began to surface. Who could have harbored such deep hatred to use such a brutal method to kill a government official? And what led Liu Haiping to pay the ultimate price? While it seemed that all traces had been erased by the explosion, a surprising discovery opened the first breakthrough in the investigation. In a trash can near the scene, the investigators found a shattered mobile phone and a remote control device. After extensive cross-referencing with telecom providers, they were able to identify the owner of the phone's SIM card as Chen Ji, a 50-year-old deputy team leader of the 3rd Squadron of the Jinan Municipal Public Security Bureau. This clue became even more suspicious when linked to the use of TNT, a tightly controlled military explosive that only those in special positions could access. As the investigators were considering this connection, another team of police, through questioning of local vendors and residents, learned that a police car had appeared near the site just before the explosion. Through the surveillance camera system and other investigative methods, they quickly determined this car belonged to the security team where Chen Ji was employed. In a covert investigation, the detectives examined this police car and confirmed that some of the residues found in the vehicle matched those from the explosion. This suggests that after using the car to commit the crime, the perpetrator had failed to thoroughly clean the vehicle, leaving a significant amount of explosive powder on the person and footprints of the culprit inside the police car. The security team and other units also confirmed that on the day of the incident, only Chen Ji's vehicle had appeared near the scene. All evidence was now pointing towards this deputy team leader. Another team of police had searched the victim Haiping's home and discovered more suspicious information, helping the investigation move closer to the truth. In Haiping's residence, the investigators found many photos, including one of her young son, some family photos, and surprisingly, intimate photos of Haiping with a man. The shocking discovery was that the man in the photos was Duan Yihei, the director of the Standing Committee of the Jinan Municipal People's Congress. Why were Yihei's photos in Haiping's home? The nature of their relationship in those photos was clear without further explanation. There was only one possible explanation. Yihei and Haiping were lovers. But a romantic relationship did not necessarily relate to the murder case. The police still needed to investigate further. With the initial hypothesis of a murder motivated by love or hatred, the investigators identified three primary suspects: Haiping's ex-husband, who may still harbor resentment; Chen Ji, the suspicious deputy team leader; and Yihei, the secret lover of the victim. Each of them had the motive and capability to carry out this brutal act. The circle of suspicion quickly narrowed as the police eliminated Haiping's ex-husband from the suspect list. However, an unexpected discovery pushed the investigation in an entirely new direction: the special relationship between Chenji and Yihei. Chenji was not just an ordinary police officer, but Yihei's nephew-in-law. This revelation was like a lightning bolt splitting the night sky, making the investigators sense an even greater conspiracy unfolding. Just 3 days after the explosion, on July 11th, with irrefutable evidence from the mobile phone and other physical evidence, Chen Ji was arrested in Qingdao. During the interrogation, in an atmosphere of tension disguised as a tea invitation, Chen Ji quickly realized his situation. As an experienced police officer, he understood that when his colleagues had traced his whereabouts, it meant they possessed evidence he could not refute. Thus, Chen Ji quickly confessed the entire crime process as directed by Yihei. Only 4 days after the horrific explosion, an even greater earthquake had shaken the political circles of Jinan. The suspect Yihei, the incumbent director of the Standing Committee of the Jinan Municipal People's Congress, a provincial-level official, was apprehended by a joint investigation team from the Provincial Discipline Inspection Commission, the Provincial Public Security Department, and the Provincial Procuratorate. Faced with irrefutable evidence, after just 1 hour of interrogation, the powerful official's facade completely collapsed. Yihei admitted to orchestrating the explosion on July 9th, using his own nephew-in-law Chen Zhi as a tool to carry out this evil plan. During the interrogation, he acknowledged his regret, but not for taking a life, only for the method he had chosen. With chilling indifference, Yihei declared that if given the chance he would still kill Haiping, only he would choose a different method. In his tone, there was not a hint of remorse for the death of his former lover, only deep hatred and determination to end what he called their ill-fated romance in a way that was perfect to him. Behind those cold words lay the haunting question: what had transformed their love into such deep hatred? The answer began with Duan Yihei's testimony, as he revealed the origin of this tragedy, a fleeting romance that had begun 14 years earlier. Duan Yihei was born on January 17, 1946, into a poor farming family. His childhood was full of hardship. The early mornings cutting grass in the mist, the long days herding buffalo under the sun, the late evenings feeding the pigs. A deep scar on the back of his left hand from a wood-cutting accident remained an indelible mark of those difficult years. But poverty could not stop his ambition. Through extraordinary effort, in 1965, Yihei passed the entrance exam to enter Xi'an Jiaotong University. As the first college student from his village, he became the pride of the local community, likened to a golden phoenix taking flight from the chicken coop. Yihei did not disappoint those expectations. His college degree opened the door to his official career. With his shrewd interpersonal skills and exceptional capabilities, his career rose like a ship sailing with the wind, step by step climbing the ladder of power. At the peak of his power, Yihei maintained the simple and approachable demeanor of his peasant origins. Whenever he visited his hometown, even as a high-ranking official, he insisted the driver stop the car outside the village. Alone, he would walk the familiar dirt roads, stopping to chat with the villagers, inquiring about their lives. A journey of just a few hundred meters that could be completed in minutes would often last an hour with him. These genuine gestures made the villagers absolutely trust that Yihei was an incorruptible official, indifferent to fame and fortune. But fate has unexpected turns. Everything changed when a beautiful woman named Liu Haiping entered his life. In 1996, a new opportunity for advancement came when Yihai was transferred to Liaocheng, Shandong Province. Since his wife, who was working at a provincial hospital at the time, could not accompany him, he had to go alone. After arriving in Liaocheng, Yihai was arranged to stay in a guest house of the agency. To take care of the living needs of the new official, the management arranged a young employee, Liu Haiping. She was only 18 years old that year. Liu Haiping was thoughtful and attentive, taking meticulous care of Yihai. She would wash his dirty clothes, prepare delicious meals when he was hungry, and even have his toothpaste ready. In those lonely months away from his wife, Haiping's considerate care gradually invaded Yihai's heart, sowing the seeds of an unnamed affection. For the young Haiping, Yihai represented not only a powerful official, but the embodiment of success and authority, an invisible magic that always had a strange allure for women. Gradually, their daily interactions ignited a feeling that went far beyond the ordinary relationship between an official and a servant. Yihai was 48 years old, while Haiping was only 18. This significant age gap seemed to foreshadow the tragic ending of their relationship. When Yihai was transferred back to Jinan, he should have ended this illicit affair. But unable to part with his young lover, he committed his first abuse of power. He arranged for Haiping to be transferred to work at a company under the Shandong Provincial Electronics Industry Bureau and bought her a private apartment, creating a parallel life alongside his official family. Yihai treated this mistress quite well. As he advanced, he did not forget to bring his young lover along on the climb up the social ladder. In late 1997, when he was promoted to a higher political rank with greater power, he used his influence to place Haiping in a position at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Not only that, he also bought her another apartment and a car. Under the shadow of Yihai's power, Haiping quickly built a luxurious life in Jinan. Her name suddenly carried weight, even making other officials show her some respect. Not only enjoying this newfound wealth, Haiping also cleverly seized the opportunity to take care of her own family. She brought her parents and younger sister to Jinan, and through whispers on the pillow, she persuaded Yihai to arrange jobs and household registration for her relatives. Haiping's insatiable greed had led the once incorruptible Yihai down the path of corruption. To satisfy her constant demands, he was forced to start accepting money to expedite matters. When rumors of his corruption reached the ears of Yihai's wife, her reaction surprised many. Instead of demanding a divorce, she chose to persuade her husband, hoping he would stop before it was too late. In front of his wife, Yihai pretended to listen and declared he had cut ties with Haiping. But behind those promises, he continued to cheat, turning his relationship with the young lover into an even more carefully hidden illicit affair. To deceive the public, Haiping even married a doctor. But in reality, the two continued their secret trysts. The truth was finally exposed when the doctor husband discovered this hidden relationship and filed for divorce. Ironically, Duan Yihai not only destroyed his own family, but also contributed to the collapse of his lover's marriage. The sense of betrayal and injury gradually transformed into an insatiable greed in Haiping's heart. If she could not possess this man's heart completely, she was determined to exploit his power to the fullest. In her mind, a twisted logic took shape. If she could not have his love, she would demand as much material wealth as possible, as a guarantee for her own precarious future. In 2006, with ever-growing ambition, Haiping requested a job transfer. As usual, Yihai abused his power to transfer her to the Land Resources Bureau. But it seemed nothing could fill the abyss of ambition within this woman. She continued to demand a luxurious 1,400 square foot apartment and the latest car model. This was the residence and car she was using when the incident occurred. Haiping's greed was not simply a desire for material goods, but rooted in the loneliness and resentment that had accumulated. In the vast and cold apartment, she lived a shadowy existence, waiting only for Yihai's hurried visits at 10 o'clock at night. After years of living in the darkness of their illicit affair, Haiping craved an official status, wanting to marry Yihai and stand beside him openly, no longer having to hide behind the walls of deception. But for Yihai, from the very beginning, she was just a fleeting romance, never to become his legitimate wife. The arguments between them grew increasingly violent, and in her anger, Haiping began to use their secret relationship as a double-edged sword, threatening her older lover. This had enraged Yihei greatly. He felt that after he had elevated Haiping so much, she had become ungrateful and unappreciative. Therefore, he began to seek ways to eliminate this threat. Haiping's threats were like strong winds blowing at the tree of Yihei's power. The fear of his secret being exposed gradually transformed into a dark intent in his mind. Though he tried to suppress it, the thought of eliminating this threat continued to smolder in his heart, waiting to erupt. In his daily work, Yihei silently sought someone to carry out this plan. This person had to be not only trustworthy enough to keep the bloody story secret, but also bold enough to execute it. After many sleepless nights, he decided to choose his nephew-in-law, Chen Ji. As the son-in-law of Yihei's elder brother, Chen Ji owed a considerable debt of gratitude to Yihei, who had used his power to secure the police officer's position and help him advance. This familial relationship, reinforced by privileges and benefits, was an invisible chain binding their fates. In Yihei's eyes, this was the perfect tool for his sinister plan. In 2007, when Chen Ji visited Yihei's home for the Lunar New Year, Yihei spoke to him about his troubles and expressed a desire for him to deal with Haiping. Chen Ji immediately agreed, saying that since his work was all arranged by Yihei, he naturally had to help him solve this problem. After discussion, they decided to eliminate Haiping through a staged traffic accident, but they later found that Haiping's activities were mostly confined to the city center, where it would be difficult to gain enough speed. If they acted carelessly, not only would they fail to kill Haiping, but they could also expose their own identities. Therefore, this plan was abandoned. With the first plan failing, Chen Ji came up with another idea. As a former military engineer, he knew how to manufacture explosives. He thought of using an explosive device to resolve this issue. After the explosion, all traces of the crime would be completely erased, a seemingly perfect strategy. After Chen Ji shared this idea, Yihei also found it to be a good one. He provided Chen Ji with detailed information about Haiping, such as her home address and car keys. As a police officer, Chen Ji easily exploited his network of connections to obtain the controlled explosive. He had a good relationship with a garage owner named Chen Changbing, 40 years old, who was skilled in remote control car devices. In the privacy of the garage, the two began their deadly experiments. The first 2 detonation tests were carried out to practice, leaving the final 3 triggers for the real act. Along with 2 kilograms of explosives and a remote control they had secretly constructed, they created a weapon that could tear apart metal and flesh in an instant. But as the murder weapon was completed, something in Chen Ji's conscience suddenly awakened. He began to hesitate before the destructive power of what he had created. The thought that a simple button press could take a life, leaving no chance for redemption, began to haunt his mind. Though Yihei constantly urged him on, Chen Ji continued to find ways to delay. In July 2007, Chen Ji could no longer postpone it. On the afternoon of July 9th, Chen Ji and Changbing drove the police car to the area where Haiping worked. Holding the bomb, they quickly located Haiping's light blue Honda. With trembling hands, they used Duan Yihei's remote control to open the car door, then carefully placed the deadly bomb under the driver's seat. In just a brief minute, they had completed the entire process. As it was their first time doing something like this, after placing the bomb, they hastily left the scene. On the road where Haiping usually drove home, the 2 evil perpetrators held their breath, waiting for their target. But fate played a cruel trick. After just 5 minutes of surveillance, they lost sight of the victim. Chen Ji decided to take a desperate final move, driving to Jinshi Road, the familiar route Haiping always took. Here, they patiently waited for her to pass by. Chen Ji, with a shaky hand on the remote control, sat silently in the police car, waiting for the signal to activate the devastating device, while Changbing got out to observe, ready to signal when Haiping appeared. At the time, there were many vendors and elderly people sitting and enjoying the cool air. To ensure Haiping would pass through here, Changbing even casually asked an elderly woman sitting nearby, "Is this the Ruyi residential community up ahead?" This seemingly innocuous question, coupled with the unusual tense expression and accent of the strange man, caught the old woman's attention. A few minutes later, Haping's light blue Honda appeared on the street that afternoon, unaware of the impending tragedy. Changbing quickly made the call. Just seconds later, a horrific explosion tore through the peaceful evening air. The devastating power of the blast not only destroyed the car and its occupant, but also injured a street vendor nearby. This was the explosion on July 9th in Jinan that shook all of China. While the panicked crowd rushed and scrambled in chaos, a pair of keen-aged eyes did not miss an unusual detail. The strange man with the unfamiliar accent had hurriedly jumped into a police car and disappeared into the chaotic traffic. Noticing this peculiar detail, the elderly woman managed to jot down the license plate number of that police car, a seemingly minor detail that would become a key to unlocking the secret of the case. On July 13th, Yi was taken away from his office. Within an hour, he had confessed everything and provided a long list of his social connections. After the trial, the court determined that Yi had abused his position to receive and demand property from others, totaling 1.69 million yuan, approximately $250,000, in cash, and 1.33 million yuan, approximately $195,000, in assets of unknown legal origin. Thus, a bomb explosion had led to the exposure of corruption among government officials, and the investigation began to expand. In this tragedy, Haiping had shown herself to be no passive pawn. With the keen instincts of someone who had weathered many storms, she had sensed the tragic fate awaiting her. Before her destiny was sealed, she had told her family, "If I die, it is certainly Yi who killed me." Yi had also thought he could use his power to conclude the incident as an accidental death due to the hot weather causing a fuel tank explosion. But he did not realize that the distance to his own death was only 59 days away. After the incident, he was quickly arrested. But he did not think he would be sentenced to death. He thought they would give him a chance at rehabilitation, to enjoy his old age. Therefore, throughout the interrogation, Yi remained quite relaxed and cooperative. During the questioning, he even recounted his entire 61-year life story. In the interrogation room, the three perpetrators revealed different faces before justice. Changbing, with a miserable expression, desperately pleaded, citing the moments of hesitation before attaching the explosive device as evidence of his intention to abandon the crime. Chen Ji, trying to avoid the death penalty, repeatedly claimed he was just a victim of Yi's coercion. As for Yi, he admitted his guilt. However, when the prosecutor asked him if he regretted it and what he would do if given another chance, his answer chilled even the seasoned investigators. "I do regret, but only for choosing to use explosives. If given the chance to do it again, I would still kill her." In fact, this was not the first time Yi had plotted to eliminate his lover. He said he had previously planned to kill her through gas poisoning, tire blowout on the highway, and many other methods, but all had failed. There was one time when Haiping's car had a flat tire before getting on the highway, and Yi not only failed to kill her, but had to take responsibility for fixing her car. Ultimately, the court sentenced the defendant Duan Yi and Chen Zhu to death, while the defendant Chen Changbing was sentenced to life imprisonment. The romance between Liu Haiping and Duan Yi showed that the 30-year age gap was not just a number, but a chasm that could not be filled by money or power. When selfish love intertwined with corrupted power, tragedy was inevitable. Perhaps this is a warning for those standing at the threshold of an illicit affair. Be sober before it's too late, and that's the case for today. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.